Stop the struggle. Burnout comes from trying to control everything. The Taoist secret: be like water. Learn the path to effortless resilience and unlock true flow. Watch now to stop fighting and start living. Part 1: The Crisis of Control. Why we burn out. Welcome back to Echoes of Life. Take a moment and consider your biggest source of stress. Is it the traffic you can't control? The coworker you can't change? The unexpected deadline that threw your perfect plan off course? For most of us, stress is not caused by the event itself, but by our resistance to the event. We spend massive amounts of energy trying to bend the world to our will, forcing situations, people, and time to adhere to our rigid expectations. This constant fight against reality is the true source of burnout and profound fatigue. We are living in a crisis of control. We believe that being strong means being rigid, unmoving, and hard. We are taught to stand our ground, to never yield. But what happens when an immovable object meets an irresistible force? Total collapse. The moment you are pushed too hard, the rigid structure, your mental plan, your physical health, your emotional boundary snaps. 2,000 years ago, the Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu offered a profound alternative in the Tao Te Ching, the wisdom of the most humble element, water. He taught that the greatest strength is found not in hardness, but in perfect softness and adaptability. The Tao of Water teaches us how to move through life with effortless resilience, to be flexible without being fragile, and to be powerful without being aggressive. This ancient wisdom is the ultimate antidote to modern anxiety. Today, we will learn how to apply the physics of water to the psychology of life. We will explore Wu Wei, the art of acting without forcing, and discover how to navigate conflict by yielding instead of fighting. Get ready to stop exhausting yourself fighting the current and start flowing with the Tao. Part 2: The Softest Wins the Hardest. The Water Paradox. The central paradox of the Tao of Water is this: the softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing in the world. This is counterintuitive to our modern competitive mindset, which values steel and concrete. When a mighty storm hits, what survives? The towering oak tree, which is rigid and hard, often snaps and falls, but the tiny blade of grass, which is soft and flexible, simply bends all the way to the ground, letting the wind pass over it, and then springs back unharmed. Rigidity is a weakness. Flexibility is the ultimate strength. Look at nature. A single drop of water is harmless, yet over millennia, the persistence of water, its softness, its gentle flow, can cut the Grand Canyon through solid rock. Water never fights the rock. It simply keeps moving, finding the path of least resistance, and gradually, continuously, overcomes the hardest material on earth. Applying the paradox, hardness in life is your ego. When someone criticizes your work, if your ego is hard, you resist, argue, and create conflict. This costs you energy and peace. Softness in life is acceptance and adaptability. When criticized, instead of resisting, you yield slightly. You listen without judgment, allow the criticism to flow past you, and then you decide what to keep. You remain whole, while the energy of the conflict is dispersed. The Tao teaches us that the best way to get through an obstacle is not to smash into it, but to envelop it. Instead of fighting the current, learn to flow around the boulder. This saves your energy, minimizes damage, and ensures you eventually reach your destination. True resilience is not the strength to endure the hit, but the wisdom to avoid being hit at all by yielding. Part 3. Wu Wei, the Art of Effortless Action. Han Zhongvo Vi. The most misunderstood concept in Taoism is Wu Wei. It is often mistranslated as do nothing, leading people to think of lazy inaction. This couldn't be further from the truth. Wu Wei is the art of effortless action. Action that flows so harmoniously with the larger forces of nature, the Tao, that it feels effortless or non-contrived. It means acting with the grain of life, not against it. Think of a skilled surfer. They are clearly doing something intensely, but they are not forcing the waves. They are reading the wave, aligning their body with its energy, and using the wave's power to propel them. That is Wu Wei. If they try to force the wave to go where they want, they crash. How to practice Wu Wei. 1. Reduce internal friction. Wu Wei begins internally. When you sit down to work, do you spend more energy fighting the desire to be distracted than you do on the work itself? That internal resistance is forcing. Act from clarity. Wu Wei means your actions come from a place of clarity and stillness. Similar to the samadhi state we discussed, you act because the moment requires it, not because your anxiety is driving you. Find the grain. Before starting a project, take a moment to understand the situation fully. Where is the least resistance? What does the situation naturally want to happen? Align your action with that natural current. When you practice Wu Wei, you are not lazy. You are supremely efficient. You conserve all the energy you once wasted on anxiety, hesitation, and internal wrestling, and channel it into the external action itself. The result is maximum impact with minimum personal effort. Part 4. The Resilience of Empty Space. Another profound lesson from water is its ability to occupy empty space. Water will perfectly conform to any vessel, a cup, a bottle, a bowl, without changing its own fundamental nature. The container gives water its temporary shape, but water retains its essence. This ability to fill any space demonstrates two crucial Taoist traits: perfect acceptance. Water does not argue with the shape of the cup. It accepts the reality of the vessel it is in. It does not judge the ceramic or glass. It simply conforms. Application. In life, this is the power of non-judgmental reception. When a coworker gives you new information, a client presents an odd request, or a loved one expresses a complex emotion, can you become the empty vessel? Can you receive the information completely without immediately filtering, arguing, or labeling it as good or bad? This pure reception reduces internal conflict instantly. Ultimate humility. Water always seeks the lowest point. It does not try to climb up and conquer the mountain. It flows down, filling the valleys and the low ground. In the Tao, The lowest place is the place of safety, power, and abundance. Application. In human interaction, this is a humility. When you stop seeking the highest position in every argument, when you allow others to win a small debate, or when you take the position of the student instead of the expert, you disarm ego-driven conflict. By taking the lower ground, you become stable and unassailable, like the deepest part of the ocean. The resilience of water lies in its ability to be empty, to be open to anything. By consciously striving to be the empty vessel in your interactions, you become the most adaptable and powerful force in the room. Part 5. The Path of Least Resistance. Navigating Conflict. How do you apply the Tao of Water when you are directly facing a stressful confrontation, a difficult relationship, or an annoying challenge? You choose the path of least resistance. In human conflict, the natural tendency is to meet hardness with hardness. Your partner yells, you yell back. Your boss gives you an impossible demand. You resist and create friction. The result is always escalating energy, emotional damage, and eventual collapse of the structure, the relationship, or the project. Water teaches us a different Aikido. When water encounters a boulder, it does not stop. It does not argue. It simply yields. It flows around the object, maintaining its direction while avoiding direct collision. The flow around technique. Crocked. Identify the boulder. Recognize the resistance, e.g., your friend's rigid opinion, your client's sudden change of mind. Yield the softness. Instead of immediately asserting your opinion, hardness, say something like, "That's an interesting perspective. I understand why you feel that way." You momentarily accept their reality, dissipating their resistance energy. Flow, the movement. Once the energy is calmed, you gently shift the flow. To move forward, what if we tried approach B, which incorporates your key concern about X? You lead them toward your goal without ever directly fighting their position. By adopting this strategy, you maintain your core integrity, your direction, while allowing the other person's energy to pass harmlessly. You resolve the conflict not by winning an argument, but by preserving the relationship and achieving the necessary outcome. You use the Tao of Water to become the master diplomat and the most resilient negotiator in your own life. Part 6. The Stillness Beneath the Surface. One of the most comforting aspects of water is its two-part nature, the surface and the depth. The surface of the ocean can be whipped into a terrifying frenzy by a storm. Waves crashing, foam flying, and intense noise. Yet, miles beneath that surface, the water is utterly still, dark, and silent. The Taoist lesson here is that external chaos does not have to dictate your inner calm. Your life is the surface, the bills, the traffic, the arguments, the deadlines. These are the waves and the foam. They are real. They are visible, but they are only a thin layer. Your consciousness is the depth. How to find the stillness beneath the surface. Kakurasan. Identify the waves. When anxiety or anger hits, don't try to stop the feeling. Instead, acknowledge, this is a wave of emotion. It is real, but it is not all of me. Seek the depth. Consciously shift your focus from the external event, the wave, to the feeling of internal stability, the depth. Use your breath as a mental anchor from our samadhi practice to anchor yourself deep within your chest or abdomen. Observe the surface. From the quiet, still depth, you can observe the chaos on the surface without being swept away by it. You can see the waves, your emotions, arise and subside naturally, knowing that your core essence, the depth, remains untouched. This practice is the secret to emotional resilience. You are not trying to be emotionless. You are creating a vast, deep, internal space where external events lose their power to destabilize you. You become the immovable lake, not the fragile rowboat. Part 7. The Tides of Change. Accepting impermanence. Water is the ultimate symbol of impermanence. It is never static. It cycles continuously. It flows as a river, evaporates into steam, becomes a cloud, falls as rain, and freezes into ice. In every form, it is still essentially water, yet it is constantly changing its shape. Our greatest source of suffering in life is the futile attempt to hold on to what is flowing. We want happiness to last forever. We want youth to never fade. And we want difficult relationships to stay comfortably solved. We try to dam the river of life. The Tao teaches you to embrace the tides of change. Acknowledge the cycle. Recognize that every phase, good or bad, is temporary. Just like the tide coming in and going out, the great job will eventually end. The painful breakup will eventually heal. Release the grip. When you feel anxiety about losing something good or despair over something bad, use the gentle reminder, this is only a phase. This too shall pass. This simple mantra is the Taoist wisdom applied to time. It helps you enjoy the good without attachment and endure the bad without despair. Embrace the journey. Water never tries to hold on to the riverbank. It moves forward to the sea. Similarly, stop trying to cling to the past or resist the future. Instead, focus entirely on the act of flowing. Right now, this is the moment where life truly exists. By accepting that change is the only constant, you align yourself with the fundamental rhythm of the universe. You stop fighting the current of time and achieve a profound, liberating peace. Part 8. Final Echoes. Becoming unbreakable. We have explored the timeless wisdom of the source Tao of Water. You now understand that true strength does not come from being rigid and hard, but from being proper, flexible, humble, and perfectly adaptable. You have the tools to practice Wu Wei, action without forcing, and to navigate conflict by finding the path of least resistance. You know how to access the stillness beneath the surface. When chaos erupts, the greatest lesson is this: to become unbreakable, you must first become perfectly flexible. By flowing with life, you preserve your energy, minimize your suffering, and achieve your goals with effortless power. Stop fighting life and start flowing with it. Embrace this final challenge. Today, when you encounter your first unexpected change or small frustration, a closed door, a delayed email, a change of plan. Do not resist. Instead, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what would water do here? Then choose the path of least resistance and envelop the obstacle. Thank you for joining us on the Echoes of Life. If the philosophy of the Tao of Water has provided you with a new perspective on resilience and peace, subscribe yours to our channel and join our community dedicated to applying Taoist wisdom to escape burnout and find flow in modern life. Like this video to help the algorithm share this powerful lesson on resilience with others who are struggling to find inner peace. And finally, share this with one friend who you know is tired of fighting the current. Gift them the secret of the flow. Until our next deep dive into ancient wisdom, may your spirit be vast and your heart be as still as the deep water.